ॐ विश्वन्दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ श्रद्धा कीदृशी गुरुवेदान्त वाक्येषु विश्वासः श्रद्धा विश्वासः means a trust or a faith. Vakyeshu, in the sentences, Guru Vedanta, in the sentences of Vedanta or in the sentences of the teacher. Either it is same, but even it has, the sentences from the teacher or the Vedanta has a contribution. So both has been mentioned. So they are a means of knowledge for the person who wants a moksha. So the person gives a status of a means of knowledge to Vedanta and to the words of the teacher. That's how he has gone for, he wants moksha. Jnanam gives moksha, that also he knows. So he wants knowledge. And for knowledge he goes to teacher, means he looks upon the sentences of the teacher as a means of knowledge. And if it is independent, if teacher talks something which is based on perception and inference, well, he will not go. And he need not go also. If I have to talk something regarding temperature of weather about today, you say, why should I come to you? I can definitely know myself, right? And therefore, he is looking upon the teacher also as a means of knowledge, because teacher is non-separate from the the teaching of the Vedanta. From the Shastra. And therefore, the teacher is a teacher, Guru is a Guru, who talks about Vedanta or about the scriptures. Other than that, generally it is not considered. We of course use Sangeet Guru, this Guru, that Guru, but basically the Guru means this. Anyway, so, and the Vedanta also we look upon as a means of knowledge, in as much as we never look upon this Shastra as in speculation, theory, etc. Otherwise, it's like an academic information. Okay, nothing else. Now the pandemic is there. I have a lot of time. Let me see what Vedanta says. Let me see some information. Yeah, since a long I had the desire that Vedanta I heard, and therefore let me go. What is it? Let me know. That is not there. He is connected to the moksha. Whole line of thinking is clear in his mind. So moksha means he wants a freedom, that's only purushartha, etc., etc. It is only by knowledge. And for knowledge, that is the only means of knowledge. Vedanta only talks about the self, promises you moksha also. if you come near, of course. They don't proclaim that please come here, we will give you moksha, please turn in this side, please turn. Don't go ahead, please turn this side. No, no, no. If you go near, then you will realize that's a Shraddha. That's Astikya Buddhi. And then, of course, teacher, and as told you, and the Vedanta and the teacher is a package. And so both, if you want to buy one thing, well, the other thing just comes in. I mean, so this is this kind of a Vishwasa, that this is a teaching which gives this knowledge, etc. And if it is just a philosophy or a theory or speculation, you need not have a Shraddha, right? That's how a friend of mine, suppose he comes here, that we are friends, what are you talking? Let me just come and see. Well, he doesn't have that kind of a Shraddha. He just wants to, has a little curiosity, what it is, etc. And this is a Shraddha, like Pujya Swamiji gives an example of an Ayurveda. Let, there is a lot of Shraddha in Ayurveda because you do not know, but it is working. How it is working, we do not know. So, because the people, whoever has taken the Ayurveda medicine for different kind of diseases, has worked for the person or for a lot of people. That's how you also develop that it will work for you. That's a Shraddha. And fortunately, unfortunately, this Ayurveda, the advantage here in Ayurveda is you do not know the risk. You do not know contraindications. No, so because if you know contraindications, you may not choose, right? Because that there are some side effects and all that. But in Ayurveda, it is not known. If you take a particular thing, if you take for a long time, this thing happens, has not been told in Ayurveda. Well, then it works out. You take something in the night, and morning you see your throat is clear. And not only because somebody called you and said, I used this particular medicine in Ayurveda and my throat has become clear. You should take in the night with a little warm water, etc. And it has worked for me. He is your friend, and so he or she is a friend, and then you also do. And it has worked for you. You tell others, it has worked for the person. And that is how it is. So that's how one develops a Shraddha in Ayurveda. And at the same time, no risk has been told. No risk. That's how they have tried to find out, even in Ayurveda, some kind of a risk. You know how the preparations has to be done. Certain preparations, like they have to prepare certain liquids. They have to prepare tablets. Then they say, while preparing the tablets, the little lead, L-E-A-D, lead, must be knowing lead, mercury and all these metals, heavy metals. So from the vessel, they use lead vessels, lead lining vessels. And therefore, from the vessel, you get some lead and mercury, and that will affect your kidney. And beware, now beware that you should not take Ayurveda medicine. I mean, that people say like that. But in Ayurveda, there is nothing told about that any medicine has a risk. And therefore, you have a lot of faith. This is one kind of faith, definitely. Unless, it proves itself otherwise, you will have that faith, right? That will go on. We are not, of course, talking that kind of faith because here, of course, it is a Shraddha and in a Pramana, which is more than the verifiable thing. That is, sometime you can verify even in the Ayurveda, but it is not here. It is because it is just me. It is not a question of verification. I am a subject to verification. It will never be. And therefore, here it is, to know myself, the Vedanta is a means of knowledge. That kind of a attitude in my mind is called Shraddha. So Vedanta has to prove, Vedanta has to reveal itself in terms of giving me the knowledge. So it is more than a Shraddha. And whenever any means of knowledge comes, there is a surrender. Any means of knowledge. If you want any kind of a knowledge, through that proper means of knowledge, you definitely have a surrender attitude. Otherwise, knowledge will not take place. When right now I am seeing a yellow color in suppose a Radhika, then I have to surrender to the means of knowledge. If I question the means of knowledge itself, called eyes, well, the knowledge will not take place. Could you follow? And therefore, when I look upon the Vedanta Vakya or Guru Vakya here, as a means of knowledge, definitely there is attitude of surrender. So here, in this kind of a Shraddha, there is attitude of surrender also, which is not the case in terms of at least Ayurveda, etc. We have a faith. Unless it proves itself otherwise, we have that faith. So this is a very different kind of a faith or a trust in which you have an attitude of a surrender towards the means of knowledge called Vedanta in order to know yourself. In order to know yourself. In other cases, we have a trust or faith, etc. It is definitely other than myself. But it is just me here, and we have this kind of a... Atma is to be understood only by analyzing the sentences of the Vedanta. That kind of a thing in my mind, attitude, is a Shraddha. That's a very, very big thing. That, instead of that, I can do some meditation. Instead of that, I can do this thing to know myself. Well, I understood that moksha is given by knowing oneself. But by knowing oneself, one can definitely ask oneself a question. A very big teacher in India has told this. People are baffled, and most of them are foreigners. So many foreigners are just baffled, and they are still baffled today also. Today, and that particular ashram. They say, just go on asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? And it will answer. It will never answer. Only answer will come that I am a fool. Well, what answer will come? What answer can come? Because that's your judgment. This is your judgment since beginningless time. That I am a limited being, I am subject to birth and death, I am subject to punya papa. I am limited in terms of knowledge, of time, everything. Well, that's your judgment. How will you change that judgment? By just asking question, unless and until you surrender to the means of knowledge external to yourself. Because you have this judgment about yourself, you don't want to go anywhere else, don't want to surrender to any other thing, then how it is going to answer? Because the one who gives answer is the one already confused. He is a confused self. And he doesn't know that the height of it, he doesn't know he is confused. That's the height of it. So, if he is confused, at least he will have a doubt after getting an answer from the confused self. But here, he doesn't have even a doubt that I am confused. He says that he knows himself very well. So this has, and it has become a very big issue in India. Pujya Swamiji also had to face a lot of problems because Swamiji has questioned the very question, who am I? I mean, that pramanya buddhi, that means of knowledge to know myself, if Vedanta is a means of knowledge to know myself, if that kind of a Shraddha is not there, those people they rely on themselves and keep on asking. The answer will not, you won't get an answer. Even if you, after 25 years of questioning, just to yourself, to confuse self, a confused self is asking to a confused self, who am I? The answer will come that I am in a great confusion. Even to know that I am in a confusion, you need an external means of knowledge. That's a big thing. And that's how, therefore, Vedanta, this is a punyam. This is punyam. To know clearly that Vedanta is the only one which can give me the self-knowledge. And of course, through the teacher also, that also is another punyam. Well, that we'll talk about. So Vedanta is a means of knowledge to know myself. To know myself, there should be some external means, like to know myself, like to know my face. Myself means to know my face. I need to have an external means. Otherwise, the whole life will go. You will never know what kind of a face you have. You need at least a mirror, right? Or a surface of a clean water. What else? You need some shining surface to know yourself, which is external to you, which is other than you. Well, otherwise, how will you know? No one knows once. I can tell you that you have a beautiful face and etc. But to know, you want to verify, yes, you have a very beautiful face. You have to go to a means of knowledge, surrender to means of knowledge. It won't be. So, you don't when you bring a mirror in your front, you are not looking at the mirror, please. You are not looking at the mirror. You are looking yourself in the mirror. Yeah. You are not looking to a mirror. Yeah, when you buy, you look at the mirror. But once you bring and hang in a bathroom, you you don't look at a mirror. You look at yourself. Well, and to know yourself, what you have to surrender to the mirror. Mirror says you are like that. You question the very mirror itself. Well, you will never know your face. Right? What kind of face it is. So, that is called Shraddha. That's called Shraddha in the mirror. This Shraddha is a very, very big thing. It is considered as a guna from a Sattvika, Sattva guna. If Sattva guna is there, you will have the attitude of a Astikya buddhi or Satya buddhi or a Vishwasa, trust in the scriptures and the teachers who talk about the scriptures. So, Shraddha is attitude towards this Shastra, that it is a Pramana, and we call them as a Satya Buddhi. The Satya Buddhi, see in Shraddha, this definition, there is no Satya Buddhi. Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasaha. Now I replace the word Vishwasaha by Satya Buddhi. Why, Swamiji, you are doing all this? Because I am also referring to a definition given in a Vivek Chudamani. There it has been, the Shraddha has been defined. Sadhana Chatushtaya has been there even in there. So Satya Buddhyavadharana, that is there. Avadharana means a nishay. Means it's a resolve. What? Satya Buddhi. That is Guru and Vedanta Vakya are Shu Vishwasaha. Instead that Satya Buddhi is there. I mean they are true. This is true. This is true. That kind of attitude is called Shraddha. What this is true? Teacher of, the sentences of the teacher and the sentences of Shastra. They are true. And only with this Satya Buddhi, when this Satya Buddhi, if this is true, if I have that attitude, definitely whatever it is becomes a means of knowledge. It becomes a pramana. Like when I say what, in the mirror, when I see myself, if I say this is true, I have given a mirror a status of a means of knowledge. Could you follow what I am saying? Otherwise, to know the face, I have given a mirror a status. What? A means of knowledge. How you have given, that is true. That is true. Whatever the data is coming from the mirror, that is true. That is true. So Satya Buddhi gives a Shastra and a teacher's sentences as a means of knowledge. We look upon them as a means of knowledge through this kind of attitude called Satya Buddhi, and that's how it becomes. Once it becomes a means of knowledge, there is an attitude of surrender also, right? Attitude of surrender, and then it works. It gives you knowledge of yourself, right? So this is in Shraddha. This many things are involved. In Ayurveda, etc., we have a Shraddha, but it's a verifiable thing, right? It's verifiable. If you find that in 500 cases this particular medicine has also created certain problems, then the Ayurveda is proving itself little otherwise also. And therefore, then it will go away. That kind of we have a trust till we verify. Or the people in general verify, we also adopt those means. Anyway, but here it is something different, because it's just talking about myself. And Swamiji gives an example that suppose I hold this in my hand and tell you that this is rabbit. This is rabbit. Then, now there are two things. Either my sentence is correct, you will take it as a Satya Buddhi, that what Swami says is correct. That is true. That is true. Well, then it is entirely a different gamut. But you rely more than my sentence on your eyes. And you say, Swami has some problem today, he has not taken coffee. And therefore, he talks something absurd. But, so, How, I now, on what basis will you say that? Because you know your eyes has revealed it as a clip or something. And therefore, you more than on my sentence, you have relied on your eyes. So eyes, you have looked upon your eyes as a means of knowledge, not my sentences as a means of knowledge. You have an attitude of a surrender towards your means of knowledge called eyes, and you have a then I say you have a more shraddha in trust in your eyes for revealing an object rather than my sentence. Clear? That's how it is. So Satya Buddhi is only in the pramana. Pramana means a means of knowledge. Even if I use the word pramana all the time, please understand it. See, there are three things. One is a pramata, is a knower. Pramana is a means of knowledge. Prameya is an object of knowledge. So these three things we keep coming all the time. Pramata is a knower. Prameya is an object of knowledge. And pramana is a means of knowledge, by which you know the prameya, object of knowledge. Who knows? Pramata knows, because he is a knower. So Satya Buddhi is only in a pramana. In this case, the example, your eyes, not the sentence of a Swami. So when the words of Shastra also tell you that you are the whole Tattvamasi, etc., it is a pramana for you, because you have a Satya Buddhi in those words, and you have every reason not to believe this, right? Not because your own judgments is definitely contradictory compared to this. So you have every reason to believe that it is not true. But like in your question, how can I be whole? Like you are talking about whole Swamiji, but WHOLE. You are talking about the whole. You might have realized, but how can I be whole? I am very, very limited being. And there is no way that I can ever become a whole. Because limited plus limited plus limited is going to be limited. And therefore, so you have a reason not to believe the words of Shastra or a teacher. And so you can dismiss the whole thing, but still you feel, no, what he says is true. Well, then you have given the Vedanta and the teacher, the words of the teacher, as a status, as a means of knowledge. Then only that is true can come. So either that is true, if that attitude you have, automatically that, whatever is that becomes a means of knowledge. And of course, then definitely one who comes to Vedanta, exposes oneself to Vedanta and to the words of the teacher, he is not going to know himself as a whole immediately, right? He is not going to to know this immediately. Still, you believe it. Means that's called, you have given a benefit of doubt to the words of the teacher and the words of the scripture. That is called Shraddha. You definitely feel it's a means of knowledge to know the self or the myself. And well, even though they say I am whole, I don't know right now at this moment. I don't feel like you. But still, what they say is true. Satya Buddhi. Well, that is Shraddha. Clear? This is how it is. And they go on saying you are the center of the entire creation. You are the essence of the entire creation. You need not possess anything, because you are the owner of the entire creation. Let me say it that way. You are the owner of this creation. What are you talking? So we feel like, but even after listening all this kind of absurd sentences, so-called absurd, you are the whole and you are everything and you are the essence of everything, you are owner of everything and you are just existence, you were there all before and you will be there in future. Then still you hold on to that, thinking that yes, that is true, that is true, that is true. So you have given a status, a means of knowledge to the words of teacher, and that's called Shraddha. And so people have Shraddha. If it is there, it is there. You can cultivate if it is there. If it is a little bit, well, you can cultivate slowly. But if it is totally not there, well, it's very difficult to make the person convince, and that's how our own friends. You say you come, you will know. It is convincing. All this you will say. They just say no, we don't want. Right? It is happening. Sometimes it happens in a married couple. One person keep coming since many years. Other person will just come to pick the person and go away. He just doesn't enter. He or she does not enter. And that's how it goes on and on. And very miraculous thing happened in Ahmedabad is when doctor was coming to pick up his wife. At 7 o'clock class will be over. He just comes at 7 and picks up wife and then goes. And she used to tell, no, you come, it is very convincing, it is logical. But he was not coming. And one day it happened to him that, okay, let me go. He was early little. He came by 6:45. Then it happened in his mind that let me go in. And he came. Then in that 15 minutes he found a little interest. Then next class he came little early. Then next class he's an anesthetist, and so he dropped. Imagine, he dropped one of the case he has to attend. So he dropped his earning also because he will get money. He has to give anesthesia to the person, but he said, no, you arrange somebody else. I would like to go to this. And he came for the whole class. And now he came. And he has become a regular, person to, now he won't miss single class. So if it is there. So by punyam only, the person get a thought that let me sit inside. Otherwise he could have waited outside. Right? So this is, Shraddha is something, that's a person who is born with a certain Shraddha, that's a result of a punyam. That's a result of punyam. Perhaps you and me have in one corner in the past that, yes, this is what I want to study, this is where my answer is, something. Or some kind of a spiritual pursuit should be there in my life because I want to have some spiritual pursuit, etc. Well, then definitely if you are born with certain thing, or it manifests after some years after the birth, well, it is just a punyam, definitely punyam. Because throughout the life, if you try to convince a person may not turn up at all. Whole of life, there are people who just do not turn up, really. In the home, she is listening. After going, she listens also. If she listens, he just gets up and go to the bedroom and just lock inside and sleep. And she is listening outside in the living room. He just does not want to listen at all. There are people, years and years go like that, years and years. In fact, it happens so that the people have not turned up for the whole of life. And their partners, wife or husband, they is an ardent listener like that. Very, very devoted, very devoted. So this all has some connection with punyam. If you are born with a certain kind of a mind in which there is a astikya buddhi, there is a satya buddhi, etc., well, it's a result of a punyam. And if it is there little bit, slowly the situation person can cultivate. But if it is entirely not there, it's a different situation. By punyam only he may get some thought, and he may then come and then he develops. That's there. Not by purushartha, just by saying one person to other that you please come, it is logical, it won't. He himself gets some kind of a thought, or a situation created where he himself he or she has to expose, and then he may, through the punyam, he may develop the attitude of listening more, etc. Anyway, so here this thing that you are the whole, etc., if the Shastra says, even though it doesn't make a sense immediately, well, still you you have in your attitude in your mind that it is true, then you have a Shraddha. And this kind of a sentences will not be understood immediately. Will not be understood. This equation is never understood immediately. You have to do analysis. But the person should be available for analysis. And the analysis takes time. We may think the equation is understood like the mathematical equation, if that will be that is understood immediately. Like any mathematics equation, you sit down in a class, and within a 1 hour, or not even within an hour, within 10-15 minutes, you are able to derive the whole thing. So this is equation in which the Tvam, the I, is equated with the Ishvara, where entirely opposite things are there. Then that kind of analysis requires some time. And the analysis requires some time, but I'm able to go along with the analysis which teacher is doing. I should have some kind of a astikya buddhi, satya buddhi, that well, let him analyze, but that is true. I would like to know. So that is called Shraddha. This Shraddha has many, many facets. So it is understood, this equation is understood only when you inquire both the sides properly with the help of a teacher. Both the sides you can understand, Jiva and Ishvara, both. And definitely because the Tat means Ishvara is a Jagat Karanam, etc. And the Tvam is, and he is a omniscient, omnipotent, everything, is equal to Tvam, I, who is just a limited being all the way, limited in knowledge, limited in time, and limited in power, and they say both are one. That's the equation. Tat Tvam Asi. Asi means the equation. You are that. And therefore, this analysis definitely takes time, but still you have that benefit of doubt to the scripture and to the words of even teacher who is analyzing the equation. You have that kind of an attitude. And then you find that yes, after analysis, you find yes, it is correct, that Tat and Tvam can be equated, and well, it's a true equation. Until then, until you discover, teacher has already discovered, he has solved the problem, and that's how he's giving you the answer. He put step by step. So he has solved. But then for other person, while he is solving, there is a pending discovery. For the people who are there, who are listening, for them it's a pending discovery. Pending discovery of what? Pending discovery of equation. Equation of what? Tat and Tvam. So till then, he goes along with the words of the teacher, not by questioning, but by this, that is true buddhi. That is true buddhi. Well, that is called Shraddha. So Vedanta Vakya is taken to be true. And it doesn't serve immediately, seem to be true immediately, but you accept the meaning to be true, and then you inquire and discover, etc. That is called Shraddha. And if there is a doubt in that, definitely you will dismiss the Shastra. So you question, when the question of a dismissal comes, then you don't dismiss the words of the teacher or the words of the scriptures, you dismiss your understanding. That's the thing. I will give you a very beautiful example of a Taittiriya Upanishad, in which one disciple called Bhrigu goes to a teacher, and happens to be his father also, called Varuna. He goes there and he asks this, Vidya, Adihi Brahma, may you teach Brahman. So he has done a lot of homework, because he goes and tells, you teach Brahman. He didn't tell that I want moksha, you give me some knowledge, or what is to be done. You give me some kind of a sadhana to gain moksha. No, you teach Brahman. Means he has all other things he has done. For moksha, I need only moksha, first thing, nitya nitya vastu vivekaha. I need moksha, dharma artha kama is not, it's not a purushartha. And ultimately I want freedom. And freedom is always in terms of a knowledge. Freedom is not something which is to be attained in the future. And therefore it should be in terms of knowledge. And knowledge of what? Not knowledge of this, knowledge of Brahman. And therefore all these things he has, so brilliant. He has discovered it. And so to know Brahman, now he goes to the teacher. Could you follow what I am saying? He doesn't tell that I want moksha, please give me some kind of a discipline, sadhana, etc. for gaining moksha. Everything. He just goes to the teacher, his father, and says, you give me Brahmagyan. You teach me Brahman. Anyway, then Brahman is defined there by the father, the teacher. He says, Yatova imani bhutani jayante yen jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisambhishanti tad Brahma. Yatova imani bhutani jayante. I mean, from whom the entire creation, from which everything, entire creation is born, by which everything is sustained, unto which everything is resolved, is Brahman. That's a definition. Then he went, because Brahmajnanam is given. He asked for Brahman and it was given. Then he went in a solitude and just thought over. And he found that, yes, that's correct. That this, the Annam is this body, is Brahman. Because the definition of Brahman fits here very well. Body means basically the earth as such. Annam means earth. And Yatova imani bhutani jayante. Yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisambhishanti applies to the Prithvi, because everything is born from the Annam, food, that is earth, and it is sustained by the food, and unto which everything goes. Everything goes to the tomb. From womb to tomb, everything afterwards, ultimately everything goes to Prithvi only. Well, then, yes, Prithvi is Brahman. The definition of Brahman given by my father, teacher, fits to Annam. That's Prithvi. That's correct. And even look, body also is Annam, because it is born of Annam, sustained by Annam, goes back to Annam. So, Annam Brahmeti Vyajanan, this body is Brahman. And with this understanding, he went there, again to the teacher, father. And he told. Then he said, you have not done inquiry enough. And then go again. Then Mano Brahmeti Vyajanat. Then he discovered the mind. Then he said, like Prano Brahmeti Vyajanat. He discovered the prana as a Brahman, mana as a Brahman, first body. Then Vijnanam Brahmeti Vyajanat, etc. and etc. Then Anandam Brahmeti Vyajanat, etc. So ultimately found out the consciousness, which is the witness of all these 5 sheets, ultimately is Brahman. But so that shows that instead of questioning the father's sentences, he questioned his understanding about Brahman. And that's how ultimately he discovered it. So dismissal of this dismissal of the vakyas of the teacher is not there. Dismissal of my understanding should be there. And then you can come to the correct understanding also. So what teacher tells the sentences or the words of the Shastra is true, and that is a Shraddha. And the Shastra deliberately says you are the whole, knowing very well that to whom it is told is just a body, mind, sense complex and a conscious being. And the person also to whom it is told, a conscious being, he has that sense of a limitation also. Well, he knows. Still it is told. Means your limitations are there, has been accounted for. Because it never says that, the person goes to the teacher, to the scriptures with attitude of knowing, no, what you are feeling is entirely, it's a wrong understanding about yourself. It doesn't say that way. Even taking into account that what you are saying, that you are a limited being, that's accounted for. In spite of the limitations you are feeling that you are Brahman. Means what? Then what? Either I am limited is right, or I am limitless is right. Because I am saying I am a limited being. You say, yeah, that's correct. And still you say you are limitless. Means there is a lot of confusion. No, this is what you are feeling about yourself is just an apparent thing. It's an apparent thing. Equation is only possible when the apparently things are different, but in core of the thing, they are one. Then only equation is possible. Suppose, if there is a totally non-difference between the two sides, totally non-difference, I mean equal, totally equal. By looking itself, you say they are equal. Then I need not make equation. On this side 5, this side also 5. I say 5 is equal to 5. ये क्या है? What are you teaching us? What are you teaching? So, if there is a equality immediately while looking at totally non-difference, then definitely you need not have equation. And basically both the things are essentially, if they are different, then also you cannot make equations. So totally different, you cannot make equation. Totally non-different, with your perception you can see they are equal. Well, you need not make an equation. Equation is essential when apparently things are different, but essentially they are one. I will give you an example. Like 5 plus 9 is equal to, like 5 plus 3. That's not big. 5 plus 3 is 5 plus 3 is equal to 10 minus 2. 5 plus 3 is equal to 10 minus 2. Entirely, apparently all the things are different. 5, 3, 10, 2, sign plus, sign minus. Right? This is the equation. Apparently they are different. Essentially they are one. That's the thing. So apparently you say that I'm different, his world is different, Ishvara is different. Yes, correct. Correct. But essentially you and Ishvara, you and Jagat or you and the other individual are equal. That is where equation is needed. I mean, so Shastra accepts your sense of limitation and still talks to you that essentially you are limitless. Right? Essentially you are limitless. So they take into account the apparent duality, apparent differences, and still essentially they are one you want to convey. So this is how an equation is possible, and this is through analysis we can understand. So you give, till you arrive at this equation, it takes time. To arrive at this equation takes time. I'm telling you, it is not that easy. Maybe intellectually also to understand that myself and other individual or the world and Ishvara are essentially one alone. To arrive at this conclusion through the equation of Tattvamasi, etc., takes time, years and years. But then, till then, you will have a benefit of doubt. You hold on to the teacher and hold on to Shastra, and without doubt, with a pending discovery, well, it's a great thing called Shraddha. That's how it is. So, you inquire with this kind of a attitude of pending discovery, giving a benefit of doubt to the Shastra that they know the equation better than me, and therefore, definitely they. And Shastra has no axe to grind. Yeah, that's another thing. Shastra has no axe to grind. By telling you are whole, Shastra wants to derive some benefit from you. Nothing of that sort. And therefore, Shastra wants to make you independent. Same Shastra on which you were dependent for varieties of the actions in order to get varieties of the results in your life. So you have to depend upon the means. Means are given by the Shastra. Same Shastra tells you, we want to make you independent. You are whole. You don't need anything in your life. So don't come to us. Don't open our pages. Really. So therefore there is no axe to grind. Otherwise I want wealth, and there is a Sri Sukta Homa there. So I'm relying on the Shastra. Same Shastra says now, through wealth, what you want in your life, you are. That's our equation. It's an amazing thing. The Shastra makes you independent. Looks very, very hazy, but you continue your travel along with the teacher and the scriptures, and that is giving a benefit of doubt to both of them. And Definitely you will discover one day the way the teacher has discovered through the Shraddha from his teacher, right? You also must have traveled like that along with his teacher through the words of scripture. It might have taken him several years like it took up for us. It is taking for us. Well, then if he has discovered, I will also discover. If this medicine has worked for everyone else, taking in the night, and when morning throat is clear, well, it will work for me. Could you follow? So that's how you give a benefit of doubt to the teacher and Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu, both. And of course, we are going to discover, we are talking about right now scriptures, but I include teacher sentences because the Shastra is not going to speak to you, definitely not. Because the key of unlocking the Shastra is with Guru. And that's how we were saying. These Gurus are definitely, they want to have a monopoly kind of a thing, and that's how they want to exploit the people, and that's how they keep the keys. And so nothing of that sort. Nothing of that sort, because Tattvamasi, that equation, basically is unlocked through a teacher, a particular teacher, not a university professor. University professor teaches. I don't know, here also they are, I know, University of Pennsylvania also has Vedanta subject and everything. Well, it is not unlocking. It remains as it is. Or it may create some misunderstanding also. We don't know. How he translates the word Tat and Tvam and all, depend upon that. If Tat is absolute and some transcendental and something, bliss and all, bliss, transcendental, all these things, then I tell you, whatever understanding you have got from some other good source also will be wiped out totally. They have the capability of creating a more confusion when they address to a confused self. And therefore, a particular teacher is required. That's how Guru Vakyeshu also is very essential. Before I go to Guru Vakya, Vedanta Vakya is over now. Vedanta Vakya is the Tattvamasi. And you have Shraddha, etc. We have talked. Now this Shraddha is also extended not just to the Vedanta Vakya, but to the entire Veda Vakya. Because the question is, like you say, I have a Shraddha in the Upanishads. That's a part, it's the end of the Veda, etc. What about the other portion of the Veda? It's a one body of knowledge. Then the doubt comes. Because in whatever has been told in other part does not make much sense to us. Sometimes it may look that it is against my reason also. It may look. Like this also has been. It's against the reason. You are whole and you are the center of everything, and you are essence of everything. You are essence of what you want in your life, etc. All this looks very absurd, against reason, but still it makes sense. Same way, other part of the Veda, other than the Vedanta, what it talks, also may look to you that, well, it is non-verifiable thing, and therefore I cannot accept it. I may not be able to verify. Here, at least in terms of Vedanta, because it is talking about you, and it's a confused self, and when the confusion is gone, you will know that you are whole, right? It's not question of giving a hope in the future, that in future we will know, etc. See, what Vedanta says is you are whole means what, The implications of this sentence is what? That if it is a whole, if it is a limitless thing, then it should be right now here. If it is not right now here and somewhere else, well, somewhere itself indicates a limited thing. So it is here. Limitless indicates that it is here. Well, it has definitely come down to the level of, in my range of verification. And also, it is now. Not only here, it is now. If you say no, it will mean future. Well, then also it is not limited. It is not limitless. So now and here, well, then there is no scope for you for not to believe, not to have disbelief. There is no question of disbelief when I say something is here and now. Like a person, let me tell you a story. But let me first finish, then I will tell you the story. That's better. Anyway, so Shraddha is extended to the other parts of the Veda, which is considered by me as a means of knowledge. I have given it a status. So whatever Veda says, I am accepting. Whatever has been revealed by the mirror, I am accepting. Same way, whatever is revealed by my eyes, I am accepting. Not a part of what is revealed by I accept and part I don't accept. No. Whatever is revealed by my eyes, I accept. Totally. Same way, whatever is revealed by the entire Veda, I should accept. Not only a part of the Veda called Vedanta, which talks about the self. Other part talks about something which is beyond reason, which will remain, which you cannot verify in any janma, which you never, like they talk about devatas. How will you verify? How will you verify? Devatas, it has come in a Brahma Sutra that people, there is in Veda there are two sections, as I told you, the Purvabhaga and the Antavhaga. Vedanta is Antavhaga. Purvabhaga talks about karmas and upasana, etc. And there all these devatas also are there. The stutis of the devatas, the singing of the glories called suktams. And those devatas you invite in the fire, etc. And then you give oblations and everything. Then the question has come in Brahma Sutra whether the devatas possess the body or not. And it's a very serious question, because if devatas possess the body, then definitely if I am inviting a devata here for taking the offerings, he cannot go somewhere else. Right? It's like you invite me here, that Swamiji, please come. Then I say I have to go even to a Stroudsburg, Wind Gap, something. At the same time, for taking Bhiksha, I cannot go. Right? And therefore the question comes, like a particular place, some yajna is going on, then a devata is invited there. At the same time in India somebody is doing, at the same time, suppose, same yajna. So devata has to reach there also. If devatas has body, how will they reach to all the places at the same time? It is impossible. Then all these problems has been resolved there, and it has been derived. That's called Devata Adhikaranam, in which it has been very beautifully described. Devatas have a body, and they can go to many places, all this through reasoning. So like devatas have a body. Fine, very good. Okay, if devatas have a body, I want to see them now. Because Mimamsaka believes that devatas are nothing but they are just in the form of mantras. Mantratmako devataha. They are just in the form of mantras. And therefore, if they are just forming the form of mantras, well, I need not have to see devatas as a special entity. I am chanting the mantras. Well, that's itself is a devata. Your desire to see devata has resolved. Because they are in form mantras, I am able to see mantras, I am able to chant mantras. Well, but if they say no, devatas have a body, Vedanti says, they are Purvapakshi for us. They say just they are in form mantras. We say no. Through mantra you invite them and they have bodies. Well, I want to see them. I want to see them, how they look. How they look. Because people have a great desire to see to see the actress and actresses. They are in India, here also, it may be there, I don't know. Silver Star, something name. And there in India, they are crazy. They are bhaktas and bhaktas of these actors and actresses. Great bhaktas. I mean, with this much, they in a certain magazine, they give just eyes. Everything is covered. But these bhaktas will realize, yeah, he is my God. He's particular actor and particular actress. Just eyes. So they are so much fans, And so I want to see how they look. Because you told me they are very bright and everything. So I want to see them. Forget it, I say. Just forget it. No, I will come again on the earth and I want to see them. any Janma, any living being, impossible to see Devata. Impossible. Then how will I say? You become Devata, then you can meet Devata. That's the only way. Only way is you become Devata, then definitely you will be able to say hi, hello to them. Otherwise not. That's the thing. Now this part of the Veda which talks about the Devatas as a body, etc. It's beyond reason, right? Because you will never be able to verify them. It's a non-verifiable belief. Heaven, non-verifiable belief. Then punyam and papam, how will you know? Like this is, you are doing this shravanam, is generating punyam, by the way. Yeah, Shastra shravanam itself generates punyam. There is a benefit which you experience right now in terms of your understanding is one thing, but it also generates punyam. I am encouraging you for listening. I told you that karma has two kinds of result. One is a drishtafalam, adrishtafalam. So drishtafalam is your understanding, which you experience directly with the class goes on, but adrishtam also. Now, how will you know adrishtam is there? Non-verifiable belief. It's a non-verifiable belief. Well, what is non-verifiable, Swamiji? I don't accept. Yeah. And then the same Veda talks about the self, that you are whole, etc. Yeah, that I can accept. Because in future I will be able to verify. I will be able to analyze along with you the great equation, and definitely I will come to know one day. Till then you accept it? Yeah, I will accept it. What about this? Well, sorry Swamiji, so I will just keep a trust, a limited trust in the last portion of the Veda. This is just one page. Ishavasya mantras are 18, and the Shukla Yajurveda has thousands and thousands of mantras. Ishavasya is just 18 mantras. At the whole Veda, so big book, at the end of it there is just one page. I will trust that much. All other things is for you. No. The Shraddha is whatever has been told in the entire book, including that Ishavasya. I have a trust. Whether I will be able to verify or whether I am not able to verify. Entire body of a Veda is looked upon as a means of knowledge for which you do not have the means of knowledge, and for those objects which you cannot arrive at through your means of knowledge called senses and mind, well, the Veda is a means of knowledge for you, and those objects either you verify or you may not be able to verify, well, you accept them. So Swarga you accept, Devatas you accept, Devatas have a body you accept, Punya Papa you accept, and like that many, many, many things. How Punya Papa can, you do Sri Suktam Homa and it has generated some Punyam. That Punyam is translated again in terms of giving you some wealth in future, right? How that connection, I would like to know that connection also. Never possible. Because the fruit of this action, the wealth you may get in another Janma, we don't know. It's not that you may get in this life also. May not be possible. And therefore, how will you connect a karma and karma phala? How will you connect? Impossible to know. For any human being is impossible. Bhagavan says, karmana gahano gatihi. The gati, the path towards path of that action, towards giving a result of an action, favorable, unfavorable, etc., nobody will know. Bhagavan himself says, nobody can trace out. Nobody can trace out this network of this. Other than networks we are able to find out, but not this one. So what is said by the Shastra, I accept as a true. That much Shraddha. Not only just the subject matter is self and therefore I accept because I am going to verify it. I will be able to know. And not only that, Swamiji, but the wholeness is absolutely unknown to you. No. No. Because the wholeness is your experience, and that's how it has become a standard, a norm to you. That's how you are in search of that. All the time you are in search of the wholeness. Please understand this. Otherwise, like I taste a coffee, I gave you example. I taste a coffee and I am able to tell this is good or bad. Means I have experienced some coffee which has become a norm in my life. And therefore, wholeness is something which is not a totally non-verifiable thing. You have verified it. You don't know that you are whole. Well, that's correct. You have an experience of wholeness. It has become a standard for you. It has become, it's a situation in which you have found yourself a very comfortable self, which has dropped all the limitations. And therefore, that has become a standard for you. It has become a norm for you. And you want to reach to the height all the time in your different experiences. Well, so that is something different. But then other than that, whatever Veda says, if Veda talks up to you about something which you know yourself in terms of experiences, in terms of joy, but you are not knowing yourself that you are whole, you have experience of wholeness in a deep sleep, you have experience of wholeness in a waking state in certain moments of joy, so it's verifiable. So what Veda says is correct. You are whole. I have experienced wholeness centered on myself. But what about Swarga? What about Punya Papa? What about Devata? No. I extend, since it's a means of knowledge, then it is a complete means of knowledge. Not a part is means of knowledge and part I reject. It's a complete. I accept in toto everything as a means of knowledge. Whether I may be able to verify, I may not be able to verify. Certain subject matter I will never be able to verify. Not in human life, not in dog's life, not in any life. Then why they talk about it? You can get the body if you want. When you get the body of a Devata, you enter into Devaloka. When you enter into a dream body, definitely you enter into a dream world also. And then you interact with the people in the dream. Definitely you interact very well. So when you enter into this body, well, you have to forget the dream world. You have to forget. No, I want that particular thing in the dream world I want right now. Forget it. But again you have to enter there. So that's how. So if you enter into a Deva Sharira, well, you experience how the Devatas are and everything. You can experience. Then, but I may not be able to. Then believe at least. We are giving you some reason for that there is a Devaloka in which these Devatas are there. And since you have not entered into this body of a Deva, you are not able to experience the Devaloka. Right? So this is the whole Veda is looked upon as a pramana. Extension of, my Shraddha, even to the subject matter of the Veda, which is never available for me for verification. So this is a Shraddha. And of course, what Vedanta Vakya also says, told by the teacher of the Veda also, therefore equal amount of Shraddha for the teacher, called Guru Vakyeshu Vishwasaha. We have to analyze Guru Vakyeshu Vishwasaha tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.